Hi everyone, welcome to episode 111 of The Green Life. I am so excited about today's episode and I think the numbers are so spot on. I've been getting 111 for a long time. So 111, it's definitely one that is for me. And actually, it's perfect because next week I have Dr. Christian Northrup coming back on the podcast and talking about a lot of things that have to do with today's episode, which is my solo updates for the past year, which some people actually asked about, so I'm really happy to do it. I wasn't ready for a long time to share certain things, but I feel like now we can talk about it with a little bit of kindness and lesson learned and so much going on, so I'm quite excited about that. Before we start though, big shout out to Namawell for the J2 juicer. You guys know I love my green juices and I only use the J2 from Nama because I get most out of my produce. It's a beautiful machine. They also came out with a C2, which is a blender as well as a juicer, and now actually they have a milk maker, which is awesome. So you can make your own homemade plant milks, which is honestly, yes, you have to invest in the machine, but it's the best thing you can do because things bought in the shops can be quite tough. I buy just soy milk, and usually it's only soy and water, but there are a lot of brands that would put so many things that actually really do impact our digestive system, and they're not great. So it's better to know what you're making. And soy is the easy one, but of course, it has to be organic. But there are some other brands that are not great because you're talking, well, not brands, but also kind of milks. Like if you are looking at oat milk, and it's always full of oil and it's just not healthy. Other things are just full of sugar. So we kind of have to be very careful. On the other hand, I don't get a kickback from Nama, but I have a discount and it's 10%. So go into show notes and pick it up. I am an affiliate, however, of Dr. Morse's herbs. You guys know I work with the herbs. I love them. If you're watching the video, I have the bag of the All Heal tea behind me. It is an amazing tea. So you can have it, and really just helps with everything. And it's the cheapest way to go about it. But the actual tinctures are heaven sent. They really work really well. And then there is Window Workshop for the wonderful also tinctures, but a little bit more on the support emotional side, as well as their wonderful turmeric products and cinnamon. And they are friends of mine. I've known them since I started the company, and they're just brilliant people. And then, of course, the Newzest, who I had an interview with a couple of weeks ago, so you can listen up. And they are making wonderful protein support, but also green powders that are full of nutrition. They're like a supplement. And if you want to learn more about the story as to why they created that brand and that line, as to why it's so clean, then you really want to listen to the episode. All right, so back to today's episode, talking about what's been happening for the past year. And I think the title of this is like really growing into your skin. So last year, I've been sharing in a couple of episodes already how I had been on this journey of healing, mostly physically, because I had type 2 diabetes and adrenal fatigue. And if you don't know the story, I'll give you a little summary. But basically, since 2016, I felt like I was very overwhelmed with stress, but I was kind of on this wheel, and I was just running on it, and I was coping and doing everything I had to do. Emotionally, I was very good at not really delving too much in my emotions and just really thinking that I don't have to tap into my emotional state because I was, teaching yoga, and I was so in tune with what I wanted others to feel, which was good things, that I really had to feel good things. And I really went on this for a long time. And then my personal life had a bit of a shake-up, earthquake. And because I didn't deal with a lot of my things, I kind of continued with a certain path, right? And Kyle and I, after almost really breaking up in 2016, when I was like, I'm actually done, we don't seem to want the same things, things turned around after that little earthquake. And in 2017, we got married, but we got married mostly for practicality. Like, of course, we loved each other. We had been together for a long time. We have been together for since 2013, 2011. Sorry, so quite a long time, 13 years. But marriage was something that I actually wasn't really ready for. I always voiced it, but it scared me. And I also thought, oh my God, we're going to get married and things are going to change. And I don't know that I'm ready for change in that aspect. But at the same time, I didn't want to disappoint him. And honestly, like, he needed to stay in Europe. And the other alternative would be like, we have to go to the US and we have to apply for the visa there and then wait. And maybe I can't even stay the whole time there. I had to be back in the UK while he stayed there. So it was really, really cumbersome. So we thought, we love each other. We've been together for a long time. We live together. Like, we have a life together. Let's just do it. But because I hadn't worked on my emotional stuff, I just felt like maybe I didn't think about what that meant, because I mean, marriage it's a promise of something really big, and a lot of times we forget that it's so big, and that we really need to take the time, right? People sometimes, I feel like, they get married really quickly, and I know that when we are in love, we really just want to jump in that ship and be like, we are a unit. But there are many things that I think we have to consider, and I'll go into them as we go. Then with our marriage, we also had finally like a very aligned project, which is to move in nature. And we couldn't afford anything without having a mortgage in the UK. And we both didn't want to do any debt. We're not debt people. We we have to buy cash and we have to do everything with what we have. So Portugal came up because of many friends. So I think it was just a message we had to get. And we moved here to Portugal. And well, we didn't move here straight away. We came here to visit. I basically started coming here all the time to look for a property and finding the one that I knew could become a retreat. Honestly, looking back, it was a little naive not to think about the details, because I thought we would be here and we would have a community straight away. But that didn't happen, and it did affect the way that I was even looking at the retreat. But we did it. I came every month, and I managed that project so that the house would be livable within 6 months, which of course happened, but it didn't happen without a lot of pain, stress, and a lot of disappointment, because I was navigating a very macho society, which I wasn't used to, with men that were just horrible. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be offensive to the Portuguese, because there are some amazing Portuguese, but some Portuguese men, they just don't know how to speak to people. They're just rude. Like, be nice. You don't have to be kind. Like, you don't have to be horrible. Like, what is wrong with you? And that was my builder. Like, he would just say offensive things all the time. And it was like, oh my God. Like, I don't have to tell you when I do something. I'm like, yeah, because first of all, I come from the UK and I can actually plan my trips according to what you have done or not. And also, we're paying you. Like, of course you have to tell us. Anyway, and he saw that Carl wasn't engaged, because Carl didn't speak any Spanish or Portuguese and French, whatever language that actually was available here. So I was managing everything and trying to be super nice and navigating a culture that I don't know. It's not mine. So I'm like, okay. I just did it, but it was very stressful. And then we also had planned not to be here full time, but be mostly in the UK and then here and just be here in the summer for the retreats. But then we realized that nobody would look after our house, and there was so much more to do than we thought, like the garden. We didn't even think about the garden, landscaping, and so on. So pack up London. By 2019 May, we live here. And that was very, like, it just took over our whole life, like creating that farm and doing the retreats and trying to make that happen. And there was a lot of stress. I broke my wrist. My mom came, and that was the first time actually that I really felt very triggered. I shared this before, where I had this dark night of the soul rising. Feels like a movie. And I just realized for the first time I'd never had a mother, and I got so upset about it, because I have broken my wrist and I need support, and this woman just wasn't able. And again, it's not a blaming, it's just the facts, right? It's like factual. So my brain was trying to cope with that. then fighting with Kyle all the time. It was very stressful. And my brother was living with us. The poor guy didn't like university in the Netherlands. So it's like, what am I going to do in my life? So interim, he was helping us. But of course, it was like, all these energies. And as I mentioned before, I was a parentified child. So my role with my brother, instead of being brothers and sisters, I was like mom. And I'm not the mom. So it was putting a lot of strain because now, like, he's a, he's a man. It's not a kid anymore. So that was stressful. And then more stress on top of that. Then 2020 happened, and all the retreats got canceled, and then my sister came to live here, which is another relationship that I never realized how damaged it was. And again, it was really because we grew up with a very skewed dynamic, because again, parentified child on the side, she was really not, she was a kind of overlooked by my mom, and not kind, a lot, not taken into consideration a lot. And I was the parent of my mom. It was very confusing for all of us. I think it's really hard to go back and actually think about these things. But push comes to shove, I felt like something was really wrong with me, and I didn't really know what it was. I couldn't put it into words, and I didn't have the time to stop. I just knew that whatever people were saying, or even a good morning would trigger me. Like, I just had no tolerance for anything. And then by while I lived like that for really 2 years and a half, not knowing and not even looking at myself in the mirror, I had gained so much weight around my belly. My legs looked like pillars full of fluid. I've shared this many times. And then when I looked at myself in the mirror at the end of 2020 was the first time I got a shock. I was like, whose body am I living in? I didn't recognize myself as a person anyway, because I was never the person that would wake up in the morning and wanted to not live. I'm really resilient. Like, if anybody has grit, that's one of my biggest qualities. Jeez. Like, the world might be shaking me, but I'm gonna pick myself up. Like, no way I'm crumbling. But I suffer like a lot, and I feel a lot, but I was never really good at communicating how I was feeling, because I never thought or was told that I could share these things. So it was a very intricate path to be on. And at the same time, all these things are happening. Relationships are very hard. I look at myself and I recognize myself, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So now, for a while, I was just like, okay, I'm going to just take care of myself a little bit better. But the stress was still there. And I hadn't learned how to disconnect from the stress. So I made it still a very prevalent part of my life, where it was just in my face. And then I realized that basically I just felt really abandoned by myself. Like, I wasn't living up to my potential. And that really made me upset, because I'm just like not that kind of person. So I went to the doctor at the end of 2021, because I turned 40, and I had my friends over, and I got COVID. And I coped with COVID really well, considering, because I'd been starting to do more yoga every day, and I was since 2020. And then I was eating a little bit better, not perfect, but better. So I was feeling a little bit better. And I actually thought, okay, I'm on the right path. I didn't know I had type 2 diabetes. And when I went for my blood work at the end of 2021 and got the results in 2022 in January. No, sorry. I went for the blood test in 2020, and I got my results in 2021. And when I got those results, I was just like, what? My progesterone was like bottom low. I was a mess. And I knew that would be the case, because I felt like it. So it wasn't a surprise. But at the same time, yeah. And my mother came again. And this is when we really broke that relationship. And I disconnected from her for over 2 years. I didn't speak to her after that. And I really started this healing journey. And at the end of 2021, when I got COVID, I was just already in a better place. But there was a lot of stuff going on. And then in 2022, I had an operation, but I was ready for it, because another thing I wanted to do is, like, I'm not going to go under surgery not having had the time to really heal and make sure that I don't have to take antibiotics, because I didn't want them, or painkillers, because I didn't want them. I wanted my body to deal with it, and it did. I have a holistic doctor, dentist here in Porto, who is amazing. And she was so surprised. I interviewed her for the podcast because I wanted her to talk about root canals in particular, because that's something I had, and that was affecting my health as well. And a lot of people don't realize how bad they are. And I I wanted her really to, like, she was like, I can't believe how like your body just heals. And I knew it was because of the power food I was putting in there. Because at that point, I'd gone low fat, high raw, and everything started happening. I started losing weight, clarity of mind. My memory was sharper. I was focused. Like I live a life now that I couldn't have lived. And I couldn't even remember what I ate in the morning. Like sometimes my memory was so bad. I was like, okay, this is not good. But I didn't know what to do because, you're in a place where you're like, okay, it is what it is, right? I'm just stressed. And everybody around me just didn't understand me, so they were gaslighting me a lot. And gaslighting is something that was very prevalent and it still can be. And I think this is something I recognized because I never really even paid attention to it. But in any case, the last year, I kind of really transformed my life because, yeah, I got healthier. And then I got to a point where I was like, I need to revive my business, not because my business it's not about money or titles. It's just, I'm not helping the women I'm supposed to help. I'm not serving. I am teaching yoga. I'm doing some social media, but I'm not serving. And I was like, this is not my life. This is not what I need to do. This is really not what the Most High wants for me. And I during that time when I was healing and I wasn't really in the world, I was on a mountain. I did have the time to really go deep a little bit into spirituality and learn so many things and really delve into things like Kabbalah and like connection with God and the Hebrew history and the Bible and so many things. Not to the extent that Kyle did, though. Kyle really is deep into it and really learning things. I mean, Kyle has got also an innate gift of breaking codes down in a way that nobody else. It's like nobody's business. But equally, I also think sometimes we can go a little bit off into the spiritual realm, and this is where we kind of diverged a little bit because I like spirituality. I need it. And I'm in tune with the esoteric and I need nature. I need to be around trees. I need to be around water. I actually noticed how much I love the ocean. I never really thought about it. But I need to also live in the body because ultimately the calling I'm getting is this, like, you're here for a very short period of time. Our spirits are eternal, but our bodies aren't. You have a mission and you have to really fulfill that mission. And I felt like I wasn't. So I had to make some decisions. And the other thing in the background is this: our relationship with Kyle was based on, whenever I was saying what I wanted, I just felt like the gaslighting was coming up. And not because he didn't support, but it's because he wasn't interested in what I was doing because he had his own path to be on. And I just really need someone that is actually on board with the things that I do. I feel like I need a cheerleader that is there helping me and kind of filling the gaps of things that I don't know. Because again, even as an entrepreneur, I actually don't know everything. I need to learn all the time. But also in that process of learning, there is there are a lot of things that if I can learn from someone that is much more experienced than me, I would want to do it. Now, this is where it gets tricky because you have to have people that you really trust and that they're not going to screw you over. So in that in that dynamic, I just realized that he's not really on board with, like, he understands what I want to do and he supports it, but he doesn't know how to support it the way that I need. And it took us like a year to actually be able to express our words in this way without the blame, because of course I was like, you don't support me, I don't feel supported, and he was saying the same. But it's not that we don't care about each other, it's more that we just don't have the tools to support each other the way that we each want. And that really was the biggest thing, right? So I decided to open my office, which is what I'm sitting now here in Braga. And the magic started happening. I started getting clients and I started working with different people. And, I started creating a community and teaching yoga at at the Pilates studio of my friend Elena, who I don't teach right there now. Just the timings don't work. And I have other projects that are taking over and I need to really focus. But I was teaching there for a little while. And yoga in Braga is a little bit tough to start because they have a very, I guess, classical style of doing it. Like hatha is the big thing and it's really connected to religion. But at the same time, it's a religious place where Catholicism is like massive. So a lot of people are like, yoga is the devil. So there is like this duality. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff going on. And ancestrally, this country has a lot of curses that they have to break. But in a way, I actually like that because there are a lot of women, especially, mostly women I'm meeting, that are really doing the work to make that happen. I met a few men that do that, but mostly women. And they are women that are healing from heartbreak and wanting to expand their hearts and really wanting to grow and create a shift. And they are really truly investing in creating making a difference. So when I opened my office here, things started to happen. I started teaching more, and then I also managed to I started also working on creating a project called Elevate, which is a market that is all about plant-based and vegan and creating connections. And like, it was really, really nice to be on this. And, we continuing with this. So I feel like there has been a lot of shifts and a lot of stuff happening, but this didn't come without a prize. So the prize being, I can't be in my home all the time because driving up and down becomes tiring and expensive. And I did it for a few months, and that resulted in a lot of fines. I never realized how many cameras they put on because I knew, but I was getting fines. And so after paying 600 euro fines, I said, well, this is not going to carry on because it's not going to be good for me, my bank account, and it doesn't make sense. And also I was too tired. So I started sleeping at my friend's house and then eventually actually sometimes in my office. And it's been really like this. And I'm still in that situation. I guess I now spend a bit more time in Porto, but I have a really good friend there who hosts me and has a big home to allow me to have my room. And I, in exchange, support her with anything she wants me to support. So mostly with a beautiful pup that she rescued from the fires we had here a couple of months ago. And we just look after him like he's our baby. And so, there are all these things and synergies. And all of this has really allowed me to become very compassionate. I go to the farm once a week. I still prepare meals for Kyle and look after my dogs when I'm there. But I miss them. I can't see them all the time. And at the same time, I learned that I had to put boundaries because I actually realized a lot of the things that I was naturally connected to, even people, I started not missing anymore. And I am, something that I definitely could do better maybe, but I don't really necessarily think so. But I'm gonna just share it maybe on a high level. I could communicate better how I'm feeling, and maybe not, maybe not just going silent and quiet. But I have realized and learned that I have two very opposite attachment styles. One is anxious, and I will go into that for a moment, and the other one is avoidant. And when these two come together, it's like a navigation of too much feelings and then not wanting to deal with them. So my anxious attachment comes from being a parentified child who didn't feel like she had support. And I never felt like I had support. I felt like, we grew up in a very stressful environment, my sister and I, mostly, and with a mom that was a child herself, was very young. And so you're thrown into things that you're not supposed to really navigate at your age. Like, you're a child and you can't be a child, and then you know that there is no safety net, there's no support there, so you kind of live with the sense that something will not be there for you, someone will not be there for you, so you have to kind of come up with these coping mechanisms. But at the same time, you don't want to bother anyone, so you know that your feelings are not gonna be catered to, so you don't complain, you don't throw tantrums, you just like, it's fine, I'm strong, I don't care, it's over, like, you just move on from things. But because it's this duality, even though my brain is like, it's okay, just, like, it makes sense to just move on, like, your feelings then just come up and take over. So there's a lot of navigation to go through, and at times it's incredibly painful. And so this has happened in the last year in particular, when like everything got triggered, where it's like there is a lot of emotions, and then the logic of, you can't control this, let it go. But then you let it go and you feel like you are so detached from feelings and that you're responsible for them, and then it's just over and over. But then somebody will actually point out and attack you about something, and then you're like, I don't want to deal with this. So it's like this ping pong of emotions. So you can imagine it's quite stressful to do that. And the last year has been pretty much that, up and downs. And at the same time, one thing that I really love, and this is where the resilience skill is tip top, is I'm here for a mission, and I have to become the vessel that can hold the light that I can share. Otherwise, there's just no point in being here. And at the same time, I also learned sometimes when you want to do so much for someone else, even if you love them, if they're not ready to receive what you have to give, you're taking light. And I think that we all need to be here to share it. So we have to understand what that means, a lot of us, because logically we're like, but if you're helping somebody and you're giving, isn't that just giving? But not necessarily, and not always. And so that is the tricky part. And I felt like I just felt like I had to learn a lot of lessons, and I'm still learning a lot of lessons. Then in this whole process, I started thinking about how to expand my work. Being in Braga has been really great because it's a beautiful little city. It's small enough to feel really safe and easy to navigate, but at the same time, it's small enough that it's small. So I have, I grow out of things quite a lot. Like, I need expansion. It's like something that is really genetic for me. Like, I need expansion of myself. I need to grow, and I need spaces where I can grow and I can meet different people. And there are so many expats coming and living here, which is great because it does create that expansion. But then I noticed what kind of expats were coming here. And it was the kind of expats that like to go to the pub and drink and eat. And it's not the kind of expats that want to create something and move something forward and be innovative. But in Porto they are. So I am spending more time in Porto. In Lisbon they are. So I'm checking in Lisbon a couple of times when I can. And I'm working with a new startup association and really giving my time to things that will allow me to expand and also make connections with really good people for the work that I want to do. So you have to be open to a lot of possibility and opportunities coming. That again comes at a cost of being a little bit less settled. Like by the time I started doing, like by spring, I felt like, okay, I'm grounded now, some sort, so grounded. And then it was like, okay, summer was the worst summer of my life. Like, I think with summer, a lot of stuff just came up, especially because routines were disrupted. People go on holiday, they get lazier because they want to be out. I mean, I get it. But I just felt like, oh my gosh, everything is so overwhelming. Like, nothing is standard and working. And I'm like, having to readjust again. There was so many points of adjustments that emotionally it was exhausting. And so I'm trying to really find a place a place within myself and like in this life where I'm just like connecting to the moment that I'm in, but not not being necessarily overwhelmed by, tackling these changes all the time. Like, I like sometimes not to go through these massive shifts and actually be a little bit more grounded. I can't control it all the time. Most of the time I can't control it. So again, I'm learning to navigate these shifts and like trying to be graceful in it. But again, everything that I go through, somehow it's like a message that I'm getting, which is, you're learning something new about yourself that you can help others. Also, you're learning something about the hormones that you're working with, because you're a woman in your 40s, and as you go through perimenopause, which started, at 38 something, then do the best you can to have the health you want, the body you want, the mindset you want. Like, try to create that shift. And then in doing so, you just know that you're creating that like power to really be the better version of yourself. And again, with that, a lot of not only shifts happen, but also like there are some collaterals that go on. Like, you have to let go of some relationships. Sometimes you have to step away from, the relationships that are close to you. So I had mentioned that I didn't speak to my mom for 2 years. And then in the process of that, she was getting in touch with questions sometimes. And I noticed from her sharing that she was really working hard at being a better version of herself. And I actually really felt proud of her because she was looking after herself. She looked amazing. She was looking sweeter, more grounded, peaceful, positive. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And then we started talking more and more, and I started opening up about what was happening in my life and telling her why I've been moving more towards Braga, what was happening in our relationship with Kyle, how things were not really great. We were not communicating in the best way. I didn't know what I wanted, and that actually, well, I knew what I wanted. It wasn't the same thing he wanted, and that we didn't know where we were going with this. And so a lot of conversations. And of course, Kyle on the other side was being reactive too and trying to navigate that. And it took us almost a year, and we did some therapy to communicate better. But I was telling my mom all this just because I really need to talk to somebody that would be non-judgmental. But of course, the old patterns started coming back. And so there was judgment, and there was a lot of actually things that I asked her not to do, which is sharing what I was telling her, my sister, and vice versa. I'm like, whatever I tell you, don't tell my sister. And whatever my sister tells you, please don't tell me. Because there is a level of trust. Like, we are both talking to you about things that are going on in our life, and you don't need to, ping pong things between the two of us. Like, that's something I never liked. And it was actually my rule to start having a relationship again. I didn't want that confusion. And lo and behold, that confusion came up again, where I saw that they were talking, and I got really upset about it. I was like, okay. Then there is just nowhere to go with this. And at the same time, the relationship with my sister, it was very hard, and I had to make a choice not to continue with it. People always, it's funny. And I think this is where, like, again, we talked about growth not being linear, and how we navigate a lot of feelings and circumstances. And one of the things that I noticed deeply was that there is a lot of how do I say this? That when you do something so different, there is a lot of attacks that are going to come our way. When I stopped talking to my family, the first thing everybody says, but it's your family. Like, you are forced to talk to them because they're genetically connected to you. You can disagree with them, you can this and that, but you have to talk to them. That to me never made sense, not even when I was younger. It never made sense. Like, I'm like, okay, hold on a second, what? And I had witnessed very toxic family relationships, like even my mom and her dad, like, and yet, just didn't make sense. I was like, why do we need to talk to people that we don't like, even if they're genetically connected to us? So I made that choice. And thankfully, though, I've noticed that there is a very large group of people that may or may not have the courage to do it, but understand that. And they're like, you know what? It's okay not to talk to your family. It is a different thing, though, because, yeah, people normally fight when they don't talk because they're fighting. But I'm actually in a place where I haven't really fought with them. I was just like, you know what? I just don't feel like this is constructive. So I don't want to have a relationship. I don't want to talk to you, but I really want you to be happy. All of you. Like, I really want you to thrive and be happy and actually get everything that you deserve and want. And that's all. But we're not going to be in each other's life because we just don't have an energy that when we are together is uplifting or filling. I don't know if I'm not the only one that feels that. It's just that they are in the mentality of we are family, we have to talk to each other, and oh, you don't want the relationship, it's your fault. And I'm in the mentality of I love you, I want the best for you, but I just don't like you. Like, I don't feel like I need to be in this relationship. It doesn't make me a better person. It doesn't make me richer in my heart. It doesn't make me a better version of me that you want to even be around. What is the point? It's okay. It's okay to have different relationships, and not have them at all. Like, you create your own tribe with people that even if they're not genetically connected to you, they may really feel like family. That's actually quite powerful when you find them. Those are your soulmates. And something that in Kabbalah actually I really valued learning is that the soulmates Disney, in the Disney way, it's that one person that completes you. But actually, nobody completes you. You have to be completed. You have to be a 100%. You have to be that wholesome human being that you worked really hard at creating the vessel for, so that spirit and light can come in. Because the light from the creator is 100%, is full, is already complete. You have to just be that vessel for it. Then when you meet someone that is part of your soul, you just recognize their 100%. So instead of 50-50, it's actually 100-100. I think that concept is fantastic. And the reason why we recognize ourselves and meet different soulmates is because as we come back in our process, like as our soul goes away and they're like, ooh, I have to still learn that lesson. Okay, I'm going to go back. Every time you come back from that oneness, you lose a little bit of you, of that soul. So when you come back, you have a piece of your soul that is stuck in another soul. So that soul goes in another body. And so you recognize each other. We are these twin flames, if you want. These soulmates, like we're mates, we're friends, we are soul connections. And so ultimately, the more you come back, the more soulmates you have. And it's a beautiful thing because, again, it really just explains why sometimes you meet someone and you just hit it with, like, you hit it off and you don't even know why. And you're just like, I know you. I have known you for a long time, but I just met you. In this experience, in this lifetime, I've just met you, but I know you. And on the other side, you can grow up with someone and you just never feel that connection. You just feel like you don't know them. You know them, like you know them physically, you know their character, you maybe know their cues, but you don't connect at that level. It's, when that, like, you all know when that is, right? You can feel it. So even with Kyle, to be honest, like, Kyle and I are very much aligned in so many ways. And I think in some ways we're actually part of each other. But I think we are on a journey where we have to make choices for this journey that are very particular. And I don't know if they align anymore. But one thing that has happened that is beautiful is this. Through doing therapy together and learning how to share what we were both feeling, and also working with a therapist on a one-to-one too, as I mentioned before, I need to work on my attachment styles. One thing that actually came to the surface is that we really are best friends and we care for each other, so much so that the therapist was like, you guys don't have to do therapy together anymore. There's no couple therapy here. Like, you guys like each other. You are friends. So, just decide what to do and do it in a way that is kind and wholesome. And, he said something for my birthday that was fantastic. I mean, he wrote me a letter that was really hard. Like, it was the best letter I've ever read. He wrote me cards before that were like more, like, loving. But this one was really maybe the most honest one that he has ever written, which it's it's ironic because we're not really like as a couple right now, but it's ironic, but it was like, and then he said to me, I never want you to feel like you're alone. And I said to him, and I don't want you to feel like you're alone. Like, if you need anything, I'm here for you, because he deserves it. Is really, we are best friends, and when we talk we talk to each other in a good way. And that matters. To me, it matters. And to him, it matters. And so, whatever will happen, what we will decide to do, even if we separate it, we are best friends. And that makes a massive difference. And when I was thinking about sharing what I was going through in my personal life, because it was so negative, like we were not talking to each other, we were arguing all the time, it felt like if I had said it, I would have regretted what I was saying, because it was a moment where I was just feeling angry and upset, and like I was gonna put the blame on him and be the victim. And it didn't resonate. It didn't feel like that was truth. So now, speaking about it this way, in this like more grounded way, it feels good because, yeah, we are best friends, and we just don't know if we can make our relationship work because of the things and lifestyles that we want. Like, I want to be in nature, but I need to be closer to the city. I need to be able to move and do a lot of projects, because that's what's driving me right now, to reach and that place where I really can impact a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you what that is in a minute. But I think I need to share something, but now I forgot from the beginning, so I'm sorry. But if I remember, I will share it. But equally, we are in that place, and that's a beautiful thing, because like, you're connected with your soul to someone. So at the moment, this is my life. It's where like I'm a little bit of a nomad, between my office and Porto, and trying to navigate. And no, I don't have a lot of time to see friends. I'm trying to just really focus on work and being more, and in a way, I have to be in one place a little bit more than the other, because driving up and down all the time takes time, and that just takes time from being creative and productive. But right now I'm working on the 2025 pipeline, which is doing retreats every month, probably from the spring. I have already 2 that are scheduled for the summer with the Sky Conway. I invited her to join me on a retreat. Hopefully we can, because she's all the way in Australia, so we need to have enough people that are coming. But she has a beautiful story. She was on the podcast actually sharing about her journey. Like, the woman is alive. And that is something that when she told me a story, my jaw was down my feet, because I couldn't believe that she was alive. But not only alive, she's thriving. So it's like the resilience of healing of the body and the mind, it just shows the creator is not random at all. And of course, spirit, like your spirit, if is strong and resilient, no matter what happens, you're going to be strong and resilient. And you know that you have to make choices that sometimes are harder, because you have to get out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. So I absolutely, yeah, I really love that. And she was joining with that. And then then I want to do once a month. And the whole point of doing these retreats is to have a blueprint for women. So they are women retreat, to come on and actually learn about their hormones, learn about nutrition, lifestyle, the different things that they have to do with their hormones, and what the hormones want and need, and what they're telling us, and how to navigate the different stages of our cycle. But within that, there is also the different cycles of our life. So I cater to women between 35 and 70 or 65. And it's all about this journey. Like, we are cycling women who maybe want to get pregnant, maybe are struggling to have a consistent period. Maybe we have PCOS, endometriosis, you name it. Maybe there's something that is going on, and we have to understand what our body's going through and what we have to do, how to cleanse, how to help the body detox naturally, how to support every single pathway in our body by being present with our hormones and understanding them. On the other hand, you can be perimenopausal, and I want women to feel comfortable with an array of symptoms that can arise. And I also want women to actually understand this. Our symptoms will arise earlier if we don't take care of ourselves. So looking after yourself is not just because you have the symptoms, it's actually to prevent them from taking over your life, and they do. So this is really, really key. On the other hand, again, there is then the menopausal women and postmenopausal women who have this beautiful second spring of their life, as they say in Japan. They are starting a new life and they're going to really thrive, feeling incredibly powerful if they look after themselves. And how do they do that? How do they look after themselves? Well, one way to do it is that they can completely dive into understanding the hormones that they're working with, because even women that are menopausal and perimenopausal and postmenopausal have it, and cycling with the moon. So even if they don't bleed, they still have a cycle, and then understanding what to do to shift the body into managing estrogen and supporting progesterone, making sure that we have enough estradiol, and looking after our adrenals, and managing stress, and then being creative, and so many things. And having the right relationships in our lives it's so important. I think my hormones have definitely done that for me, and I will do a short video for social media about this. But I was on the contraceptive pill for a very long time. I shared it in one of the podcasts, and it was my mom's idea for my skin, without even knowing really much about it, other than, yeah, it's safe, it's safe, the doctors give it to people, so it's safe. And I was okay on it in terms of not having obvious side effects. But the pill does change our personality a lot, because, again, our hormones are these messengers that tell the body and tell the mind everything. And when you are taking the pill, you're changing those messages. Moreover, you also are changing your microbiome. And especially if you're starting with a very poor microbiome, which I was, because I had IBS for forever, it is going to be a little bit tough. So you're navigating very murky waters that even the gynecologist doesn't know about. Oh, it is what it is. Oh, if this doesn't work, we'll give you a lighter one. Like, never. Okay, what's your lifestyle like? What is your happiness level like? What's going on? Like, never a question like that. Not only do they not have the time, they don't even have the knowledge. So it gets very complicated. So that was that was where we were at. And with the retreats, it's just bringing in these beautiful, events. Then after the retreat, the women can have a platform on my website where they have access to to support, which is coaches that are in the Student and Learn Method, therapists and spiritual helpers, and Reiki masters, and anyone really that can support them, in their journey. And then I am working on creating an app. I want an app that is going to really help people navigate all this information. So I'm excited because there is so much to do, and there is an expansion process going on. So this is what I wanted to come in here to talk to you about: the last year, the process, the journey, the experiences, the ups and downs, and everything in between. But truly giving that feeling that we are empowered by all these changes. And if we truly take the lessons and we truly embrace what's happening, we can become the uplifted version of ourselves always, no matter what happens. And that, yes, at some point in some periods of our journey, things will be very dark. People will hurt us. We will, navigate relationships which are really unfamiliar and tough. And gaslighting is something you need to expect. And I want to just say this: when somebody gaslights you, do not take it personal, because it's the person that does the gaslighting and needs to check in. Not that you haven't done anything wrong, and we're not perfect, right? You might have done something wrong, but like the person gaslighting, is normally the person that is in a worse place than you. And what they are doing is actually using their narcissistic side to justify everything about themselves and their actions and trying to make you feel bad and worse about yourself. Probably sometimes, especially if they're narcissistic, by knowing that there is a part of you that feels a little bit less than. And if you feel less than, then narcissists have this antenna. They just spot it and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna use that one. So everything you told them will be thrown in your face. Everything you do for them is like not good enough, and everything is spinned and turned around. And if you ask a question, all it becomes is, why are you doing this? You are wrong. You shouldn't be questioning me. You should know better. Like, you can't have doubts. You can't have a moment of wobbly. You can't feel insecure. But actually, us feeling insecure is really a manifestation of an insecure relationship. So those are things that are very, very important to think about and navigate. So I wanted to share that, and we will continue the conversation. I would love for you to actually put in the show notes whatever you're thinking. So if you have comments, please do share them. Send me messages. You can reach out to me. I will also soon tell you what the new name for Liveline will be, because I've actually decided to change it. And again, it's a new wave that we're getting into. So this is coming up, and I'm really excited about making you part of this journey, truly. So guys, thank you so much for staying with me on the podcast today. It was an hour, so I hope that it was, helpful. Bye.